Amir Khan and Kell Brook are talking about fighting each other. This is the first time that I can remember when both of them seem to be keen on the fight at the same time. For the most part, throughout their careers, Khan has been the one that's avoided Brook. In fact, he's always been the one who's avoided Brook. I cannot recall a time when Brook was the one who wasn't keen on fighting Khan. Maybe there was, and I'm just not remembering it. But anyway, they're at the ends of their careers now. And there's the possibility, apparently, of the fight happening on Triller, because Triller, of course, seemed to have a lot of time for these OAP fights. Not that Khan and Brook are particularly old, but again, they're at the end of their careers. Now, personally, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Khan is very chinny, and at whatever age he is now, what is he, 34, 35? And he is coming off, well, no, he did have some wins, didn't he, after the Terence Crawford defeat. But you can't imagine his punch resistance is any better now than it used to be. It's probably worse. Kell Brook, his last fight was against Terence Crawford, got stopped as well. It makes sense for them to have the fight now. And with both of them looking vulnerable these days, rather than just Khan as it was before, it probably makes for a more exciting fight. Perhaps it makes for a more competitive fight, but because for the longest time, a lot of people, including myself, were strongly favoring Kell Brook to win because of the fragility of Khan, Brook's size and strength and what have you. Not like it couldn't be competitive at all. Amir Khan has been competitive against everybody he stepped in the ring with other than, let's say, Bradis Prescott and Terence Crawford. He wasn't really that competitive with Crawford, was he? Apart from those two guys, he's been competitive against everybody, including the guys that he lost to, like Canelo, Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, and so on. So, yeah, Khan's always been competitive, but the chinny chin, the poor defense, and the below average boxing IQ for a championship level fighter has seen Khan, lose numerous fights and often in devastating fashion. Kell Brook, for all his inadequacies as a boxer, his strengths were more of a danger, I would say, to Amir Khan than Khan's strengths were to Kell Brook. Brook, very upright, stiff back, doesn't fight well on the inside, doesn't really like being pressured. He handled it well against Sean Porter, but in many other fights, he didn't handle it particularly well. Certainly didn't handle it that well against Errol Spence. The two fights with Carson Jones and so on. But that's not Khan's style. Khan's a guy who's going to give you space. Yes, he's fast. And it's normally in the early rounds that Khan gives people problems. As the rounds progress, that's when the opponents can start to pick holes in what Amir Khan is doing. That's when they get used to the speed and they can start timing him. And Kell Brook has always had very good timing. So again, as with many other people, I always felt like, well, let me not say always, but for most of their careers, I felt like Kell Brook would probably take Amir Khan out. I still feel the same now, but I was alarmed at how vulnerable Kell Brook looked in that Terence Crawford fight. Just one good shot and Brook was pretty much done. And people talk about premature stoppages in the UK. There are far too many of them. But that Terence Crawford Kell Brook stoppage, that was a little premature, wasn't it? I'm not saying Kell Brook was going to go on to do anything or win the fight, but shouldn't they have at least allowed him to end the fight conclusively? Terence Crawford, that is, or more conclusively than that? Just saying. So, coming off the back of that and the inactivity, well, both guys have been inactive. I think it's an interesting fight. I don't mind seeing two guys at the ends of their careers, going up against each other. I'd much rather see it than, let's say, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, that debacle. Because at least these guys are, not too far removed from competition. Whereas Mike Tyson was coming back after how many years? 10 years or something, more than that out the ring. And he's an old man in his 50s. Khan and Brook are both in their 30s. So if they can get the fight made, I'll certainly watch it. As long as it's no crazy pay-per-view price. If they can get it on DAZN, I'd watch it, right? DAZN is worldwide now in many different territories. So no matter where you are in the world, most places in the world anyway, you'll be able to watch whatever's on DAZN. So yeah, let me know how you guys feel about this potential matchup. Perhaps you don't think it will happen. Perhaps you think it's going to be like Ricky Hatton and Junior Witter. Hopefully not. Hopefully they do get it on. And in fact, before I go, I saw this interview the other day. Kell Brook attended the last Matchroom Fight Camp event because he was there to support his friend and stablemate Kid Galahad. And by the way, for those of you who have been asking me for my post-fight review for the Kid Galahad Jazza Dickens fight, there won't be one. The reason being, look, Kid Galahad is a very skillful boxer, very smart, technical, all that kind of stuff. But I have to be honest, he is unbelievably boring in the ring. I struggle to sit through a Kid Galahad fight, just being honest. And so when the Jazza Dickens fight came on, after about 2 rounds, I was like, I can't do it. And I attempted to go back the day after and watch the fight. And again, I just couldn't do it. I can't watch, for me to sit down and actually watch a Kid Galahad fight all the way through, he'd have to be fighting somebody really elite. He'd have to be fighting like a dangerous puncher or something, a seriously dangerous puncher, to make me want to watch the guy. Because if he's fighting another guy who's somewhat technical like Jazza, it's like, nah, bro. I can't do it. I can't do it. Even though he mashed up Jazza Dickens in the end, I saw the state of Dickens' face. Nah, man, I do not find Kid Galahad entertaining whatsoever. No disrespect to the guy. Very good technical fighter, but just so boring to watch. At least from my perspective. But anyway, Kell Brook was at that show and he was called over during this Eddie Hearn interview on IFL TV by Kugan Cassius. And this was so awkward because these two had a somewhat acrimonious split. There was no legal cases or anything involved like that, but there was accusations of disloyalty and it all got a little bit bitter. I don't know whether this is the first time they've seen each other since all that back and forth stuff, but it felt like it was. There was tension there. There was unresolved conflict there. Hearn struggled to look Kell Brook in the eye a lot of the time. The whole thing was just very, very awkward. And I'm sure that's why Kugan Cassius made it happen. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think about, of course, the Khan Brook possibility, potential fight. And also let me know what you thought about this weird exchange, encounter between Brook and Eddie Hearn, because obviously Brook was looking at Eddie Hearn like, are you going to make this Amir Khan fight happen? And Eddie Hearn's acted like, I ain't going to make it happen. I mean, that's the vibe I got from it. So let me know what you guys think.